Alrighty, so activity 2.2, this is solving equations to solve problems. So I'm going to read through this really quick. So it says, Terry, Trudy, Tom, and Trevor, I know all the T's, you gotta love it, have challenged their friends with this riddle. So it says, Terry said, if you add 150 to the number of MP3 downloads Tom has, double that number, and finally divide by 3, you have the number of MP3 downloads I have. Trudy said, if you take the number of MP3 downloads Tom has, subtract 30, multiply that difference by 5, and finally divide that product by 4, the result will be the number of MP3 downloads I have. And then Trevor finally said, well, if you take twice the number of MP3 downloads Tom has, add 30, multiply that sum by 4, and finally divide that product by 3, you'll have the number of MP3 downloads that I have. So the first question that's given to you is, what do you need to know to determine the number of MP3 downloads each person has? Well, the first thing we need to know is, what is the least number of MP3 downloads one person has? If we don't know that, there's no way we're going to be able to solve this. So we need to define a variable for the number of MP3 downloads that Tom has. So what does this mean? This means we need to figure out what variable we can use to represent the number of downloads that Tom has. And do we know the number that Tom has? Did we get any information from him? No. So right here, we're just going to say that Tom equals, or T equals the number of MP3 downloads that Tom has. So T equals Tom. And then we're going to write expressions for the number of MP3 downloads that each person has. So let's take a look. So we're going to actually let you do A and C on your own. As you can see, B is written here for you. So I'm going to actually go back up to the top really quick so we can kind of figure out what's it asking for us. So we're going to work with Trudy here. And Trudy says that if you take the number of MP3 downloads Tom has, so Tom has T, and subtract 30. So that means now we have T minus 30. And then we need to multiply that difference. So remember, when it says difference, we're talking about subtracting. So we need to multiply the difference of T minus 30 by 5. And then it says, finally, once you've subtracted 30 and you've multiplied by 5, you need to divide that product by 4. And that will be the result of number of MP3 downloads that I have. So if we go back down here, you're going to see for B, we start by saying that, okay, Tom is T, and that was step 1, and we subtracted 30. Then we multiplied the difference by 5, and then we divided the product by 4. So your answer here is 5, and then in parentheses, T minus 30, all divided by 4. Now, you need to do the same thing for A and C, and just use the same method that I just showed you. So literally just go through it piece by piece, underline it if you need to. I would recommend writing it down on a piece of paper just so you don't get confused on what it's asking you to do. Now let's take a look at this next page. So it says number 3, suppose Tom has 150 MP3 downloads. Determine how many MP3 downloads each person has. So again, because we worked with Trudy before, I'm going to work with her here. So if we know that Tom has 150 downloads, and we know that Trudy was 5 times T minus 30 divided by 4, we're going to plug in 150 for T. So that means we're going to have 5 times 150 minus 30 over 4. Again, order of operations. So we're going to subtract what's in the parentheses, and we're going to be left with 5 times, and then 150 minus 30 gives us 120, all divided by 4 still. Simplify out again, so 5 times 120 is going to give us 600 divided by 4, and when we divide that, we end up with 150 DVDs. So supposing that Tom has 150, Trudy also has 150 BBBs. Now, let's move on to question 4. So question 4, there's a lot. So it says, what if Terry and Trevor have the same number of MP3 downloads? How many MP3 downloads would each person have? So what you need to do is you actually need to set Trevor and Terry equal to each other. So that's what we did here. So going back. So Trevor was 4, and then 2t plus 30. And Terry was 2 times t plus 150 divided by 3. So these both are divided by 3. So similar to what we did before, we actually are going to multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of that denominator. Because again, why work with it if we don't have to? So then we're going to be left with 4 times 2t plus 30 equals 2 times t plus 150. You distribute, you use the distributive property on both sides. I'm going to only use the distributive property once here just to make it a little bit easier. So you get 8t plus 120 equals 2t plus 300. Now, again, you need to get your variables on one side, so I'd recommend by moving the 2t over. So you're going to be left with 6t plus 120 equals 300. And then now I'm going to move over here. You subtract 120 on both sides. When you do that, you're left with 6t equals 180. Divide both sides by 6, and t equals 30. So hopefully this is making a little bit more sense and you can understand how we did this. I know that there's a lot of work and a lot of steps, so please ask if you have any questions. So now that you know that t equals 30, plug in to Tom's equation, and Trudy's equation to figure out what those MP3 downloads for each person would look like if t equaled 30. And finally, our last one that's a little bit of a hot mess, I'm not going to lie to you. So it says, what if the sum, so again, sum means adding, the sum of Trudy and Trevor's MP3 downloads is 39 more than the number Terry has. How many would each person have? Alright, so I'm going to try my best to write this as small as I can. I'm going to use the space where it says Tom and Trevor just so we can have a little bit more space to work. Alright, so Trudy has 5. Sorry, I thought we were writing already. Trudy has 5 times t minus 30 divided by 4. And Trevor has 4 times 2t plus 30 divided by 3 equals. So again, remember, we're trying to say, what if we added Terry and Trevor and Trudy together, and it comes out to equaling Terry, which is 2t times t plus 150 over 3, but 39 more. So what we're going to do is multiply everything by 12. And you're probably like, why in the world are we going to multiply everything by 12? And the reason that we're going to do this is because if you look, we have two different common denominators, or we have two different denominators. We have a 4 and a 3. And again, in order to get rid of them, we have to multiply by the greatest common denominator. And the biggest common denominator here is 12. 4 goes into 12 and 3 goes into 12. So that means each of these pieces is going to have to get multiplied by 12. So when we do that, this 4 is going to cross out, but we're left with 3. This 3 will cross out, this 12 will cross out, but we'll be left with 4. This 3 crosses out, but we're left with 4 up here. And then we have 39 times 12. So now 3 times 5 is 15. So we're left with 15, and then t minus 30 plus 4 times 4, which is 16, times 2t plus 30 equals 4 times 2, which is 8, times t plus 150 plus 468. So we literally had to multiply every single thing by 12. And when we did that, we were able to simplify most things out, except for that 39. Unfortunately, there was no denominator. So we ended up having to leave it as 39 times 12. But luckily, there's no decimals, and we just were left with a very large number. So the next step would be to distribute everything. Now, when you distribute everything, again, you distribute each piece. And unfortunately for you guys, there are 3 different sets of parentheses that you're going to have to deal with. So when you do this, you're going to be left with 15t minus 450. Make sure you guys are checking your signs. Plus 32t plus 480, which equals 8t plus 1200 plus 468. Now, simplify. We've done this before. Combine your like terms on both sides. You can do this. So let's start off with the left-hand side. We combine like terms. We are left with 47t. And then we have negative 450 plus 480. So then we are left with positive 30. When we go to the right-hand side and combine like terms, we just have 8t, so nothing changes there. However, we do have 1200 and 468. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine those like terms. 8t stays the same. 1200 plus 468 equals 1668. Now we're going to simplify even more. I'm going to subtract 8t on both sides. I'll be left with 39t plus 30 equals 1668. Sorry. And then from here, technical difficulties. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 30 on both sides. I'll be left with 39t equals 1638. Divide both sides by 39, and t equals 42. So a lot of work just to get to that one answer, but I know some of you have expressed to me that when you're looking just here at the problem, or when we're just giving you this work here, you're like, I don't understand how you did any of this. And I'm hoping that this is helping you kind of understand why we do what we're doing. So now we got to get back to the ultimate question here. So we have t equaling 42. So that means we actually need to plug in the number of t into each of our different equations. So I'm just going to erase this little bit of work here over Trudy so you can see what we chose to do. So working with Trudy's equation again, just because that's who we've been working with this entire time, all you're going to do is take her original equation, the 5 times t minus 30 divided by 4, and you're going to plug in 42. So you're going to have 5 times 42 minus 30 divided by 4. That's going to leave you with 5 times 12 divided by 4. So then that's going to bring you to 60 divided by 4. And 60 divided by 4 gets you 15. So that means Trudy has 15 DVDs. I hope these videos are actually helping you. I know there's a lot going on here and it's probably a little bit hard to follow. If you have any questions, please reach out. Myself or Mr. Franz are willing to help you